Hey everybody, tonight we're debating Globe versus Skeptic, and we're starting right now with Howard's opening statement. Thanks for being with us, Howard. The floor is all yours.
Oh, you must want me to play your video. Is that what you're signaling? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I was just waiting for you. And please make sure the volume and the full screen. Thanks.
You got it. Here I go, starting your video. 2 seconds. There seems to be a... That's weird. I had it loaded earlier. All right, here we go, playing that video, starting right now.
I don't care if you believe we've been to space or not, it's just a fact. That's not an argument, it's a fact.
Many people are not so certain, probably because there seem to be many things that just don't make
sense. So can you shut these things from the outside?
No, you can open and close it from the inside.
Oh, okay, wait. On the inside, you're throwing a lever or something.
Yeah, you're turning a knob.
And it's
open. Yeah.
On the outside.
On the outside.
How do you do that and maintain a pressure seal between them?
O-ring type seals.
No, you don't.
With a rotating catch. All our hatch seals are O-ring type seals.
Yeah, but how... my brain's...
Here, let's go inside, we can see it.
Okay, so you have a whole series of O-rings in here, and a shaft that you rotate. So, I mean, like on the space station, how many of these would you have?
Yes, Howard, I've been playing it. This is why I asked if you could play it on your end, but it is playing.
Okay.
7, because we have 7 windows. What happens if you get a leak on that?
Are you able to hear it at all, Howard?
No, I can hear it. It's just me and Mr. Sensible can't see it. It's okay.
Okay, you want to see it as well. Okay, let me see what I can do.
Then you have a leak. You just have a leak. And what you would do is lose air. Yeah, you would probably seal the whole cupola off. And then there's probably a plan, I don't know off the top of my head, but there's probably a plan for replacing the mechanism. Might require a spacewalk.
Look, just because astronauts practice in swimming pools and have shot scenes in darkness to give the effect of outer space, I get it. It doesn't necessarily prove that they haven't really been, though it does cause many people to lose faith in their broadcasts, as just seeing how difficult they find coming out and how they can't even get a grip. Never mind, how would they handle tools in an even more hostile environment? So it seems sensible to remain skeptical when viewing secondary information.
Latest cameras afforded scientists spectacular close-up views of the Great Red Spot. A storm 3 times the volume.
It's playing over your voice, so I don't know if you're able to see that or hear that.
I'm good.
Earth raging in Jupiter's atmosphere. Voyager atmospheric scientist Dr. Andrew Ingersoll. The Great Red Spot is a counterclockwise rotating storm, sort of like a hurricane, that has persisted for over 3 centuries.
Subconsciously frustrated, maybe from following hypocrisy.
This is a real video. I don't care if you think it's not a real video. And this video debunks the claim that water cannot stick to the outside of something and that water always finds its own level.
Sadly, fanatics that get triggered when you don't share their beliefs tend to resort to ridicule rather than acknowledge that the infamous blue marble image from 2002 and 2007 share the exact same cloud patterns because they were made using Photoshop, and anyone can take a snippet of a map, add a few effects to get the same result as Robert Simon, who openly admitted that he had to stitch photos together onto a spherical vector.
It is photoshopped, but it has to be. Photoshop doesn't mean fake. How many times do I have to say that?
And although the convincing Simon says to believe, their own websites state that they're all composite images and animations. Here we don't even see one cloud change shape, size, or location. But let's compare with other official footage and see how they depict our reality.
West satellite.
Yeah, little wiggle here and there, but not really what you'd expect over 1.5 days. And why are all the clouds so bright at night?
The Goes East satellite. This is the Discover satellite.
There's no wiggle whatsoever there. Oh, and look, here the clouds are dark again.
So this is the Himawari 8, which is in also geostationary orbit.
You claim it's a fact, yet you can't provide one photo of a whole country.
I don't need to.
Right now. You can't even take the challenge to find a real photo of a whole country and then try and backdate it, like I said.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, Howard. Take a look at this. This is Shanghai in China from 2013 to 2018. Just a 5-year difference and quite a change.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. You've proved my point exactly. We only see real photos from things flying above us in high altitude, because if there really were thousands of satellites in space, we would have an endless supply of photos from every angle, since the 60s, daytime and night, to compare the changes in vegetation, construction and lighting. But when you zoom in, there's nothing to see but distortion. And I'm surprised that anyone would be able to sleep with that kind of intensity. Most people don't like to admit that we're open to suggestion, especially when we're relaxed and distracted from thinking critically.
What's your name is, ma'am?
Huh?
What is your name, please? Cool, fine. It's what happens all the time. And your name is?
Yeah, hypnotists and marketing companies know that we're easily led to arrive at their desired conclusion with little persuasion. Sometimes we're lured to focus on one thing to cause us to ignore another. Just the idea of spinning on a globe, subconsciously we're spiraling in 3 different ways. And as there are multinational YouTube characters asking you to trust them and follow what they're saying, which tends to promote the faith in the official narratives, many people like myself instead recommend making your
Shouldn't
own
this be the dark
observations.
side, as the sun is behind it? Please do make the observation after sunset and compare results.
What? Where are you getting that the sun would be behind it? The sun is behind you as it's set, and Venus is in front of you.
After the sunset, you can see Venus in the blue sky when the sun's set in behind it, and it's very clearly bright and it's flickering like the stars.
Okay, yes, the sun is sometimes setting behind Venus, but because of how bright Venus is and how far away it is, and the fact that our eyes can't resolve it, it still appears as a bright star to us.
Neither the sun nor the moon are flickering like we see the stars flickering, so yeah, please do check out Venus.
The flickering is a funny one. I would suggest that this is down to the poor focus in the clip that Howard is using here from his camera.
Sadly, even after they're caught lying, they'll still keep making excuses, resorting to obsolete explanations, and claim that anyone that disagrees with them is just less intelligent or using the wrong equipment. But we can observe both the moon change its path over a month and the different locations that the sun moves through our sky over a year. But we don't see any change in the path that the stars take. They seem to follow the exact same path each night, every month, even after thousands of years, which should cause people to question the heliocentric model, especially as you look further out to the constellations seen above the equator. This is an open source investigation, yet most people choose to not take part, even when there's so much to win. 10,000 I offered, and you had nothing to lose. Seeing that we never lose landscape due to curvature at water level should be enough reproducible evidence for you to become a globe skeptic. But sadly, many will just mock and censor the inquiry to preach calculations and diagrams.
You can
to
leave.
support their
Bye-bye then,
worldview.
dickhead. Bye.
Oh, well. What should we do now, then?
Well, I don't know. I was going to bust out. I was going to bust out the old Polaris and the trigonometry and get him to tell us why the trigonometry was wrong. But you know, at the end of the day, he clearly doesn't want to listen. This is a nice little diagram here, which means that we're seeing things that should be in the sky. Right. For example, here we're seeing things that should be in the sky a little bit lower down. And if I show some pictures of that, I'm not going to do a whole lecture on it. But this was my PowerPoint. This is what I prepared for old Howard, who.
Okay, I told you, Howard, we can't play content from other people's channels without permission.
Oh, I've got permission. I've got written permission, don't worry.
So it's at 9 minutes right now, and there's a woman dancing in the water, just so you know where we are in the video.
Could you go back just a few seconds, and otherwise I've missed something.
I hadn't, if you have permission to show
I've
other people's
definitely got
content, you have to
permission.
send that to me beforehand. I'm not going to just trust you on this, because I've had too many people get us copyright strikes.
But it's uploaded on my just after his.
It's at 9:30 right now. If you pull up the video and jump to
I've got
9:30, you'll know where it
I've
is.
got
This is why I told you should be playing your own video, Howard, and stop talking over me. Stop talking
Sorry.
over me, Howard. You can start talking when I get done talking, okay? Okay, so it's at 9:30.
My reproducible observation at water level showing 20 miles is just a little bit before this, please.
Howard, you can either be done with your opening statement, or we can start from 9:30.
I'm not sure where my text is, but I'll just go on, yeah, whatever.
All right.
I can admit that seeing streetlights 20 miles away at water level doesn't necessarily prove that there isn't 80 metres of curvature like we're told that light bends, which allows us to see further than we should. But can you admit that the observable evidence does conflict with what we're taught to believe? Because it's not just a pretty sight to the naked eye either. When renowned journals publish their findings from having measured over 100 kilometres because they can't find any sign of the surface of the Earth bending, especially when military can hit a target over 100 miles away, helicopters can hover indefinitely, and the official documentation for pilots defines the ground as level and stationary. Though people like to pretend it's taken out of context, the Red Bull skydive shows the
Yeah,
horizon at eye level,
every
no
lens.
ocean, no rotation,
Yeah,
every lens,
some
and sick of fish
distortion.
lens. So there is some distortion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when flying, take note how far you can see and check the math. You'll realise that you can see much further than you should be able to. Surely light doesn't bend the same as when you're at water level, regardless of your height and position and the light force. It seems a bit far-fetched. And when mainstream media is telling you not to do your own research, it might be good to remember that we are prone to conform when under pressure from authority and the majority, especially when they're using techniques like slander, satire, or shame to make an example of people that expose and help discourage others from dare to question. Because regardless of how you calculate it, curvature cannot be seen or even measured. We can demonstrate differences in perspective and angular resolution. We can demonstrate different optical illusions due to various atmospheric conditions. But when the visibility is at best, we're not able to point out the geometric horizon, as we tend to see much further than we should be able to. And there really is no point preaching beliefs or claiming to know the whole story, because we're all missing parts of the puzzle and may never be able to see the whole picture. But at least we could be more aware of how our beliefs can be so influenced by multiple influences, or even one source multiple times. So I find it weird that we still trust news reporters and celebrities when they're clearly reading off a script for their income. And when just a thermometer and a magnifying glass can help you manipulate the effect, which will refute the idea that the moon is reflecting sunlight, because it chills water or wet surfaces within just half an hour. Because even the most unbelievable primary observation will always be up for debate with mathematical equations and complicated explanations. So I wish to end the debate, or at least change the topic of discussion, to be more about the method and behaviours applied from each worldview. As not only does divide and conquer allow the culprits to escape punishment, it also provokes fanaticism, blind faith, and leads to violence and hatred due to the frustration and insecurity for not actually having anything to support the movement that one is part of, which causes us to deny practical experiments and even personal experience for ideas that conflict with common sense and other naturally observed phenomena. And often the sheer admiration of authoritative figures cause us to increasingly ignore conundrums and contradictions, making us even more open to suggestion because we lose our own focus and self-confidence by reacting on emotion instead of stopping to think. So much that we give permission to a select few to maintain and prevent us from making new discoveries for our own safety. Did we vote for this? Well, technically yes, because silence is compliance. So please do help spread the word, because even if the intentions are somehow considered good at heart, people are often mistaken and shouldn't have the opportunity to mess things up for everyone else, while also making us feel guilty and ashamed for their careless mistakes and experiments, especially considering that the sun may not be where nor what we've been taught to believe. It just seems like there are more constructive ways that we could be tackling this worldwide disagreement, especially knowing how pointing out differences only adds fuel to the fire.
Clueless, idiotic, incompetent, stupid, obnoxious, ridiculous are all words and expressions that you can use to describe many, many flat earthers.
Yeah, most of the people in this photograph aren't even flat earthers or globe skeptics. They're my friends, because we remain respectful and compassionate, even if I no longer share their beliefs, and likewise, if some of them don't share my doubts. We'll still show love to each other because we're not fanatical. But sadly, many are, and they can't see the truth due to having reinforced the ideas that were implanted at such a young age. And meanwhile, we might be guarding our own imprisonment behind invisible bars. Sadly, we missed my primary observation of 20 miles, but it's on my channel if anyone wants to see it. Thank you.
And with that, thanks so much, Mr. Sensible. The floor is all yours.
Well, thank you. Let me just try and get set up to share screen, if I can. Hopefully, is that sharing?
Yep, crystal clear.
So I've got just the big photo of the boat, yeah?
That's right.
Okay. Let me just get straightened out and go to my notes. Right, well, first of all, it's interesting that Howard says he is a globe skeptic, because that's quite an easy position to try and take, i.e. you've just got to try and disprove the globe. You haven't got to try and prove anything else. Although in one of his emails, and he mentioned that he is making the positive claim. So I was quite interested in that. Anyway, so I will actually show a whole bunch of proofs for a globe. This first one is one that we've all seen, ships going over the horizon. Perfect explanation with the globe. The bottom of that ship is hidden beyond the horizon because the Earth, or the sea in this case, is curving down away from you. Likewise with this one, there's no way perspective can explain that. The hiding of the hull and yet still showing the masts and even the rigging. It doesn't work with perspective. That cannot explain it. And once again, another container ship. The entire very large container ship is hidden, but the smaller containers aren't. We can explain that with a globe. You can't explain that with another shape. I'm having to stop myself from saying flat Earth because you're not saying flat Earth, are you, Howard? We can measure the curve of the horizon. Here's a couple of images from MC Toon's excellent website, mctoon.net. This guy, because I don't think this was Toon that did it, has got 4 straight edges leveled up with each other with a gap in between them. He then lines them up with the horizon and takes a photo, so you can see the horizon of the ocean between those levels. And then when you look and squeeze the image left to right, compress it, straight edges remain straight, but the horizon shows a curve because it's curved. Another old favourite, Lake Pontchartrain. You can see the power mast getting shorter, apparently shorter, as they are further away from you due to perspective, but you can also see that they are dropping top and bottom around the curve. Again, perfect explanation with the globe, with the ocean following the curve of the Earth. No explanation otherwise given by any other belief. Now we can show that water is curved. This is a tow tank at Southampton University, used for testing models of ships. They put waves along the machine and so on. What you can see is the gantry, which tows the model of the ship. It runs on the rails. You can see one on each side of the tank. Now that gantry must remain perfectly the same distance above the surface of the water along the entire length of the tank, in this case 138 metres. Otherwise it's pushing the model in or pulling it out of the water. Those rails are adjustable. They're adjustable so that they're the same height above the surface of the water. Along that 138 metres, there's a curve. The sagittar, the hump if you like, is 0.6 millimetres. So basically, it's following the curve of the surface of the water, which is level to the gravitational equipotential. Sunsets. That is the go-to and most easy thing to witness, to evidence that something is hiding the bottom of the sun. Because if you have a circle that goes further and further away, it gets smaller in all directions, left, right, top to bottom. But in this case, the bottom disappears behind the curve. Eclipses. We've got the explanation with the moon orbiting around the Earth, Earth orbiting around the sun. The moon gets in between. So we get an eclipse. We get the shadow. We see the shadow of the moon falls on the Earth. The same with lunar eclipses. And even better, we can actually see the curve of the shadow of the Earth. We've been up to have a look. In 1946, a V2 rocket was sent up from White Sands in the US. This was the first image of the Earth from space. There was no CGI. There was no Photoshop. What I want to show next is a very short clip of film. Where are we? 1 second. Very short clip of film. Here we go. This was taken in 12th of May 1959 from a Thor missile. It's shot with 16mm film. Again, no CGI, no Photoshop. That is physical film that was used to produce that imagery. If I go back to my photos, right, so White Sands. This is an image of the sun. And it's not an ordinary image taken with photons, with an ordinary camera. This was taken with neutrinos. As neutrinos were detected, it built up an image of the sun, which you might think, well, that's not a very good image. That was taken from about a kilometre underground. Neutrinos stream and pass through just about everything. You need a special detector. Those detectors are placed underground. So the neutrinos streaming from the sun, which is the vast source of neutrinos that we receive, pass through the ground, detected in the tank, and they built up that image over quite a number of days. The really interesting thing is, and here is the Super Kamiokande neutrino detector. As I said, about a kilometre underground. It contains over 50,000 tonnes of ultra pure water and is lined with those detectors. As neutrinos strike atoms in the tank, they produce Cherenkov radiation, which is detected. The really interesting thing is those neutrinos come in 3 flavours: electron, muon, and tau, and they can flip between flavours. They flip mostly when they pass through the entire Earth. They get the most energetic neutrinos in the middle of the night, and they're streaming from the sun through the entire Earth from below, which you can't explain unless that Earth is a 3D shape. And of course, you mentioned satellites. We've put up endless satellites. These are Starlink satellites. I've seen them myself. Absolutely astonishing thing to see, a stream of lights going across the sky. And they were never, ever seen before the first launch of Starlink satellites. Satellites are up there. And lots of people know that because we have satellite dishes pointing at the satellite TV broadcasters. Those ones are at the equator. They point directly upwards towards the plane where the satellites are orbiting. But at different parts of the Earth, your satellite dishes point at different angles to hit the same satellite, and that conforms to the surface of a sphere. Storm patterns, Coriolis, because of the rotation of the globe Earth, we get storms rotating one direction north of the equator, the other direction south of the equator. Perfect explanation with a globe Earth and Coriolis, globe Earth rotating with Coriolis. No explanation for any other shape of the Earth. Now, we do know that the ISS is real, and this is where I want to play a clip of film. This is my film. 1 second. If I can find the darn thing again. Sorry, 1 sec. I can't see my video. You just bear with me a second. Oh, here we go. I'll just let this play for, it's 2 minutes long.
Oh, my guess is it probably has audio, right?
Sorry?
It probably has audio on the video, right?
Yeah, I'm playing audio. Is it not coming through?
Oh, okay. So one quick thing is when you hit share screen, you'll also have to, in addition to clicking on which window you want to share, you'll have to click, there's a little checkbox that'll say, do you wish to share audio as well? That'll be like at the bottom of the selection of windows that you can choose to share from. So if you unshare for a second, and then I can even do that on my side. So once you hit,
so just share again.
Yep. And then once you see the window that lets you choose which window you want to
share computer sound. Got it.
Exactly.
Right. Let's try that again then. Let's go back. Yeah, is it going to let me play again? Here we go. This was the predictions from Heavens Above website of the ISS passing over my location. The entry we're interested in is 27th of March, maximum magnitude of -3.8, starting approximately 10 degrees above the horizon at 1940 and 34 seconds. So this shows the predicted path, with the ISS starting at 1940 in a few seconds where the yellow dot is, heading directly upwards, past the Moon and past Venus. So let's see what we actually saw. Well, it's the 27th of March, 7 p.m. You might just be able to hear the clock going. Let's just stop the village clock. That's the Moon, and directly above it is Venus. As I said, it's 7 o'clock now, and in about 38 minutes, the ISS is going to rise, and it's going to be going virtually vertical past the moon and past Venus. Well, it's 7:23 now. My daughter's here. I know you can barely see. My daughter's here doing a test with her camera, and we've got the moon just there and Venus just above. We've now got about 16.5 minutes until the ISS comes up. I don't know if it's going to show up on my... There it is. I've got it on my camera as well. Oh.
Yeah, got it on mine now.
Yeah. Just approaching the moon. Got a flicker as it goes past some branches. That is the ISS going past the moon now. And it's headed up towards Venus. Fabulous. On an ordinary Samsung Galaxy phone. So all these idiot flat earthers that think it's a moon or whatever, how could that have been predicted weeks in advance to within a few seconds? And it's approaching Venus now. It's getting brighter. I think it reaches maximum magnitude of -3.8 in a couple minutes time. But this is perfect conditions, having the moon and Venus to be markers for it. Nothing fancy. You can see it with the naked eye, see it with a phone. Okay, so that was the ISS. We've also, of course, been to the moon. Here's a photo of astronaut Buzz Aldrin on the moon, taken by Neil Armstrong at Tranquility Base. But they took photos of the Earth as well. We've all seen those. You might claim that they're fake, of course. But the interesting thing about this photo is his visor. In fact, that's the name of this photo, visor shot. There's a reflection in there. And some clever bod took that. He took the high resolution copy of this image, and he unraveled that curved image. This was the view from Buzz Aldrin. You can see the eagle, you can see Neil, you can see the flag, and you can see the Earth above the flag. Now, that was not in any way faked, because back in those days, that photo, which was a real photo on real film, they would not have been able to pop that Earth on there. No one expected to be able to do that. That was there all the time, hidden information, if you like. GPS. We all rely on GPS, whether it's for our phones or sat-navs, whatever. It works because of satellites broadcasting their location and time, and your GPS device calculating exactly where you are. The next thing I want to show you is MAGE. Now, MAGE was a project I had to send a balloon as high as I could with a non-distorting camera. Now, all cameras will have a certain amount of distortion, barrel distortion usually. As you can see across the middle of the image, that you take, the distortion, if your line crosses the center of the image, it's not distorted, is what I'm saying. If you go higher or lower, left or right, you get more and more distortion, but across the middle, you don't get distortion. This is MAGE, sponsored by Bob the Science Guy, Arctic Haze, and Just Shoot Me. It had 3 cameras. One was a wide angle camera pointing backwards just for the view. The second was an upward pointing camera to look at the balloon, which was also wide. But the main camera, the one pointing towards the left, towards where those strings are, was a narrow angle, non-distorting lens. Those strings, which are spring-loaded strings, appear in its field of view. So we can see if there's distortion. This is what MAGE imaged at 33.5 kilometers. You can see a curve of the Earth, but a little higher, 35.161 kilometers, with the horizon across the center of the screen where there's no distortion, you can see the curve of the Earth. If you compress that image left to right, it accentuates it. Now, in fact, there is some slight distortion. If you look at the lower string, it's bowed down a bit, and the upper one has very, very slight distortion bowing up. But the horizon line is in between those, and yet it is much, much more curved. Can't happen if it's not the curved surface. Now, there were concerns about, did I fake it? So some clever bods suggested, looking at satellite imagery. This was a wide-angle lens from MAGE. You can see towards the horizon line, so forget the fact it's curved because this is a wide-angle lens, but you can see two areas denuded of clouds, two big bare areas, and coming down the middle, a long straight area that's cloud-free. I had a look at satellite images from the same time. This was from the Met Office covering the UK. You can see just across the very west of Wales, that's below centre screen, you can see those two bare patches. To the right of it, stretching across from Wales towards London, you can see a long bare streak. I had a look at another one, a NASA satellite, showing exactly the same. The two bare areas over the sea between Wales and Ireland, and a long bare streak headed towards London. If you tilt them, you can, although it's not a perfect match because they're from totally different directions, you can see that MAGE was up there. That proved that MAGE really flew, but MAGE proved that the satellites were really there as well. The main thing about all these evidences, because if you try and debunk one, okay, let's say you manage to debunk one, you've got to debunk the rest. They are a consistent set of evidences that are non-contradictory. That's the important thing. So all of those explanations fit and work together. You need to destroy them all. And I just wanted to finish off. Where is it? Or is that? Oh, yes. Sorry. It's a globe. Suck it up, princess. And I finished. Thank you. I'm not sure how I am for time, but I'm done.